Yo me llamo Tim Ballard. Pero me puedes llamar Timoteo.
Timoteo.
Ese es mi nombre en español, ¿no?
Tiene tu nombre en él. Mi hermana me la dio. Tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? Quizá puedas ayudarme a encontrarla.
All right. So welcome and thank you, Mr. Caviezel, for agreeing to this. I was really, really moved by the movie, and I'm eager to help get it out there to the public.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me start with the questions. The Sound of Freedom opens in theaters nationwide on July 4th. It's a film which forces us to look into such dark places, the world of child sex trafficking. What moved you to make such a challenging movie?
Well, my children, I adopted from China, and I saw the dangers involved with children throughout the world when we were going through that adoption process. That would be the first part of it. And the second part of it was the answers that were unmet to me as an American, why our south border is open the way it is, and why when I listened to April 26, Ms. Rodas's testimony that 85,000 children have disappeared, sworn testimony. Again, more of these, and how the media never covers it. Like that's kind of huge news, but it come out and then nothing. So after a while, you start seeing the smoke, you believe there is massive fire, and there is in this particular case.
Yeah, thank you. When was this movie completed? What delayed its release? And do you think there's serious organized resistance in the industry to confronting the reality of child sex trafficking?
So we showed this movie in 2019 to 1,500 people in Las Vegas and 5 different showings of it. And in a particular part of the movie, the audience members would be talking quite a bit. I didn't know why I didn't make the connection, but at the end of the 5 screenings, I talked to the 1,500 people there. And I said, why in this particular area were you guys talking? And they all yelled out Epstein Island. The public is privy to it. The Epstein Express is there. I think it's not just Hollywood, but I think it's really the Hollywood, Universal, the Disney. They're all just banks, right? Controlled by a big bank, which would be the central banks, the IMF, the ECB, the private West central banks, the BIS. They're the ones that are really controlling the south border. We're not a sovereign country because we don't have a south border. By definition, you have to have borders in order to have a country, and we don't. So the public needs to recognize that, and how they reference just even our country, democracy. Well, we're a republic, and under a republic, the difference between a democratic country like Germany was, and you could say, let's kill all of children that have 47 chromosomes. You can't do that in the republic because we have what are called inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And without your life, you have no happiness, and without your life, you have no liberty. So life has to come first. This is a long story, but you start to recognize things that just realize that, you know what, I need to go much deeper into this. And I read this script and it just blew my mind. And I couldn't understand why great actors wouldn't want to do this movie until I realized that there's a lot of danger involved in this. And much the same to do in movies like The Passion of the Christ. This is definitely the best film since I've done The Passion of the Christ. Sound of Freedom is the best quality, best dialogue and everything, but it's about the truth.
Very powerful. Excellent.
And imagine a film like this being around. Imagine if Schindler's List was around during the time of the Nazis. What would that have done? A lot of people probably wouldn't have wanted to be in that movie. They would have been scared. But
during the Ukrainian famine, Gareth Jones was trying to report on it accurately, and the New York Times was lying about it, was saying that it wasn't happening. And their reporter won a Pulitzer Prize for lying about the Ukrainian famine, and Gareth Jones's career was destroyed. There's a powerful movie, Mr. Jones, that Agnieszka Holland made about the cover-up of the Ukrainian famine. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, make a point of seeing Mr. Jones and try to get in touch with Agnieszka Holland, because her film was buried too.
Yeah, so they do that. You're seeing it in the news right now. For 2 years, well, there's no such thing as a Hunter Biden laptop. Okay, well then that's 24 months. The media must have done their due diligence. There's no such thing as a Hunter Biden laptop. So I believe that, but then there is now. Well, how do you do that? Well, hold on a second. For 7 years, we had to listen that under the Durham report, 7 years that Donald Trump's a Russian spy. So, okay, Russian spy he is. Okay, so he got impeached twice, so he must be and guys won Pulitzer Prizes for that one too. So then he's a Russian spy, but then he's not now. Well, hold on a second. So just those two subjects,
right,
was 80% of all the television for 7 years. And suddenly that's not true. And then, wait, we learned for 2 years at least that there's no such thing as the Azov Battalion. But then you've got, I believe it was John Kirby under the Pentagon getting up and saying, well, yeah, okay, there's Nazi stuff going on there now. So, wait a second. What's the truth here? Right. And the truth is we've been fed a lot of lies, and a lot of it is, listen, when you have this many people that are being disappeared, when you have this many children being disappeared, I mean, disappeared. Yeah. And this, how are the three-letter agencies just not seeing this, that this is just all random?
I've got a follow-up question on just that. Since the movie was completed, the Biden administration eliminated DNA testing for refugee claimants bringing children across the border. There's a scene in your movie, Sound of Freedom, depicting a trafficker doing just that. What effect will Biden's new policy have on children being trafficked?
Okay, well, I can tell you, I know that there's a guy named Jason Jones down there that has been screaming out a lot of stuff. And he's a guy that a lot of the fact-checking media that needs to start meeting. I mean, really, what are these guys doing right now? All they do is they read their bullet points and they say, well, these are facts. These are fact checkers. And well, where'd your fact checkers go to college? I mean, is that a degree that you get at a master's or a doctorate? Right now, the state of California want to kill babies 27 days after they're born. Why? All of these things just make no sense. You're making laws that are made it easier for pedophiles to go and hurt children. Why?
Yeah, you have to ask that question. Why? You really do. Eduardo.
So our film becomes a film that they don't want you to see. So I would tell your audience, you're not supposed to see this. You're going to see pictures in the media where they say, oh, that's been fact checked. That's AI. Well, okay, show me why it's AI. I want to know. Show me. But I got a lot of fact checkers that I would love the media to meet, because I guarantee you I'll put my fact checkers against theirs any day.
Absolutely. One of your co-star in the movie, Eduardo Verástegui, wrote an op-ed for our site, The Stream, 5 years ago, begging the United States to build Donald Trump's wall in order to frustrate human traffickers in Mexico supplying pedophiles in the United States. Do you know how many children have been trafficked into America since Congress refused to build that wall?
Well, there's massive numbers here. I know last year Ms. Rodas said 85,000, but then I've talked to Tim Ballard and it's off the charts. Even I said, Tim, what's the true number? He says, Jim, if I told you the real numbers, you'd never believe. I mean, essentially, there are 2 million that were being trafficked, but then there's another 2 million that are in the organ harvesting, and then there's another 2 million. So right now they're looking at 6 million, but we're talking about 2 million trafficked children. there's a whole, at first it was 34 billion, buying and selling of children, which would be enormous, but now it's 152 billion. Well, where's that? Well, the 32 billion or 34 billion is buying and selling children. 152 billion would be the numbers where, for example, if I was a 5-year-old procuring $20,000 a day from my pimp, and you add the numbers of all these children that are under slave, then it would be 152 billion there.
How do you fight that?
There's over 300,000 children alone under the ages of 18 in the United States that are being sucked into hell. 300,000 just alone in the US. We're the biggest buyers of it. Mexico is the biggest producers of it. But the numbers, I think, are much bigger globally. And when you start looking at, Senator Cruz asking questions to Victoria Nuland, who's the ambassador to Biden to Ukraine, and him asking her questions about biolabs, and then the questions that I started asking these agents of what really is going on, where they started pointing me in the direction. Like one of them told me that at one point, a barrel of oil was like $77. A barrel of body parts from Planned Parenthood in a plastic container was $77,000 that are being sent to these biolabs that we now know on record that there are there. And so what are they using them for?
Yeah, I've got another question. In your film, a father has his children stolen by traffickers who pretended they were children's talent scouts. And that's a true story, and that seems
Sure. 100%.
But I've seen multiple reports that thousands of unaccompanied minors arriving at our border, that their parents just handed them over to the cartels, sometimes giving them condoms or birth control pills because they knew they would be abused. How prevalent is this?
I've already heard that. I don't know what the traffickers already told them, but if the parents have already been, bought and paid for themselves, they're going to do what they're told. There were 110,000 people in Mexico that have disappeared, and they pulled out at one point over 80 body bags of people that have been recently found. Of course, that was in the news like one time, and that was it. But 110,000 people out of Mexico City have disappeared. Who's financing the cartel, the MS-13? Who's the Sinaloa gangs? Who's financing them? Because when you start reading about stuff like the Fast and the Furious one, starts to realize, how much a part of our 3-letter agencies are involved. And then when you talk to the agents, look, when I did this movie, I believed that whoever these agents are, the good ones that I've worked with, that they would have the courage to step forward and start blowing the whistle like Miss Rodas has done. And the film has that power to do that. When we shot down there, it was highly dangerous. You could see quite a bit. We were in Mexico, and you would hear people say, do you want, give you a list of things, drugs, looking for you to buy. And they would say mujeres. When you go down to Cartagena, they ask you, do you want women? Do you want mujeres? But do you want niñas? You want little girls, no, little boys, and just openly tell you this. Wow. The girl that was in the movie, she's a real character. And the time we were down there, they let her out of prison. Wow. And Tim went down there, and he did a huge op while we were down there. They saved 200 children.
Wow.
And he was putting pressure on the government to put this woman behind bars. And he says, do you not realize this movie is going to come out, and it's going to put a light on you like you never could ever believe? So we struggled getting this movie out like we did with The Passion of the Christ. This one actually took longer to get out. Wow. This topic is so huge right now, and it goes against their narrative. That's but right. Slowly, actually quickly now, conspiracy theorists ends up being right in 6 months. Well, a lot of conspiracy theorists are deemed right in less than a month now.
Well, we now know the first 3 patients who had COVID were workers at the Wuhan lab. So much for that being a conspiracy.
Yeah.
What can stream people do to help this film?
Well, what we need right now is we're selling out, but we only have a limited amount of theaters like we did on The Passion. And what happened was, we wouldn't have got a big release on The Passion, but because the demand was so massive and people kept calling in because they wanted, look, the film is a weapon. So let's say you don't understand how trafficking works. Get educated quickly in 2 hours. You watch the movie and suddenly you've got eyes that see. So let's say you're at the 4th of July party, okay? Maybe you can't go to this movie on 4th of July, but go that weekend. But what you do by buying your tickets now, they have to put more theaters out there for us. And we're coming up against a big wall where, Disney's got a big film, Indiana Jones. And what's going to happen is that people are going to go to the movie theater and they're going to buy it on the game day because most people, 75% of an audience buys it on game day. They go and they'll say, oh, rats, Sound of Freedom sold out. Let's just go see Disney's movie, So your money goes to them. If you buy now, the more people are going to be able to go to the movie theater because by you calling in, they're going to say, hey, we got to get on this right now. And then more people shed the light. And then what happens is when traffickers are actually guys that are agents watch this, they're inspired in their heart because this film is so powerful that they are going to go to give testimony because they're not afraid anymore. They're not afraid. That's what love does to your heart. It overpowers the evil, which is don't go and shed light on this. Don't get involved in this. Like your guys, that's how I know real Christians. It's not what they say, it's what they do. Faith without works is dead.
I loved the line from the movie, God's children are not for sale.
Yeah.
That just made me weep. And I think that is an incredibly powerful message. And I want to thank you for sharing it with the world and encourage everyone who sees this video to buy advance tickets to The Sound of Freedom and tell your friends, bring your friends, and help make this a movie that they can't cover up and they can't ignore.
You can go to angel.com/Jim.
Angel.com/Jim. Okay, thank you very much, Jim. God bless you and God bless America.
God bless you too.
How many pedophiles you got?
288.
How many kids you found?
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade. Because you can sell a bag of cocaine one time with a child 5 to 10 times a day. God's children are not for sale.
How long you been doing this?
12 years now.
How many pedophiles you got?
288.
How many kids you found?
Timoteo, tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? ¿Puedes ayudarme a encontrar a mi hermana?
Te lo prometo.
For Homeland Security, we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
Which means she'll disappear for good. Imagine walking into her room right now, seeing an empty bed. What we do?
You quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
So at this moment, she could be a block down the road, or she could be in Moscow, Bangkok, LA. She's a major operator.
It's all rebel territory. No one goes in. Not the army, not the police, not us.
What if this was your daughter?
There's no Marine unit coming.
You're on your own. This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
When God tells you what to do,